Hey guys, Todd James here, and wanted to do a video kind of giving you some information about something I've been thinking about for the last 8 to 10 months, basically during my pandemic lockdown period. For years now, there's been a standard kind of template about how beginners on Amazon are supposed to enter into the business, what they're supposed to do. And I made a video about that just recently, a couple of weeks ago, entitled, What If Everything They Tell You Is Wrong? Well, this is kind of a follow-up video where I want to tell you the 3 things that I consider to be most important for you to be successful on Amazon. And there's at least one thing here that really throws people for a loop. But, I want to tell you the first thing is when you are buying a product, I think it's very important that you are aggressive in your negotiation on price. You don't necessarily need to squeeze every single penny out of the manufacturer or out of your purchasing agent, but you need to make sure that you have done the math. You've backtracked from the selling price all the way through all your fees and things that will be associated with that product, and that you are getting a price on the product that you can live with and that you can maintain adequate margins to make it worth your while to sell that product. So you have to be willing to negotiate. I know a lot of people, I've seen it over and over again, a lot of people feel apprehension when it comes to negotiating, and certainly when you're negotiating with people that are frequently primarily Chinese-speaking people, it can be kind of intimidating. Actually, it really can be. But they're people just like we are. They're not mad at you. They're not screaming at you. But they want to get the best price for their product, and you need to get the best price for their product so that you can resell it and make a profit. So this year I will be making a number of videos about methods to negotiate. I know in my 20 plus years of doing business on Amazon, I have been very successful in negotiating good prices for a variety of reasons. One is, though, that I try to be fair. I'm not trying to make them lose money. I'm not trying to even have them break even. I know that they need to make an adequate profit in order to stay in business, and they know that I need to make an adequate profit. And I found that in dealing with them honestly and fairly, I usually get the same in return. So, I'm going to make some videos talking about different methods to negotiate, and the methods usually involve just pretty much putting your cards on the table, letting them see where you're coming from, and then seeing what their response is, because they want to sell you their product. They don't want you to walk away. They do want to sell you the product, and if they can make it work, more often than not they will. And if they can't, they'll usually tell you why. So that's number one. That's issue number one. And I don't think that one in itself, the idea that you negotiate price, should be that extreme. But the second one is you need to have a plan for shipping. And the plan for shipping should not be air freight. Just telling you flat out, it just shouldn't be. If you're following the template that most people do, where they're looking for a product they intend to sell for $15 to $45 or $15 to $50, somewhere in that range, air freight is going to price you out of the marketplace. Flat out, pure and simple. In January of 2020, 150 pounds of freight from China cost about $1,700 to ship to the U.S. I don't know exactly where it is now in January of 2021, but I do know that during the course of the year, that number went up to over $3,000 at one point in time for the same weight. A lot of you are unfamiliar with the concept of dimensional weight. So, you're buying an item that may be relatively lightweight, say like an action figure or some type of toy for a child, but it comes in a package that's somewhat larger than the action figure. So even though the action figure weighs 6 ounces, the dimensional weight may be 3 or 4 pounds, and you pay for the dimensional weight. And let me rephrase that. You pay for whichever is greater, the dimensional weight or the actual weight. So all of a sudden, this action figure that you're buying for $2 a piece that you thought you would bring over, you're buying, say, 250 of them, you thought you'd bring them over and sell them for $14, you suddenly find out that your freight cost is $5 a piece, or maybe more than that. So the price you had planned to hit, you can't hit, but there's already a similar action figure selling for that price or even lower perhaps. That's where shipping agents come into play. That's when purchasing agents come into play. There are items that if you go direct to manufacturer, and let's say you're looking to buy a minimum quantity of, say, 250 pieces or maybe even 500 pieces, the same scenario plays out, but you're looking at their minimum order quantity, they're going to offer you one price. But if you go through a purchasing agent who may have pretty deep ties to the manufacturer, they can get a better price for the 250 pieces you want than you'll ever be able to get. They may get a price that's equivalent to maybe a minimum order of 2,500 pieces or 5,000 pieces. Spending some time looking for a purchasing agent in China or sourcing agent is well worth your time. I would literally put it at the very top of my list in terms of procuring product and doing so in an affordable way and in a way that's going to lead you to a point where you're making a profit. Purchasing agents usually charge a very, very small commission, something on the order of 1 or 2%, but literally they may save you 20 to 50%. The savings can be pretty dramatic on a per piece price. So bear that in mind and be prepared to put in the extra work to find a sourcing agent that can help you. And they're looking to create, sourcing agents are wonderful. I use a couple of different ones, and they are looking to create a long-term relationship with you. If you're honest with them and you say, look, I'm just starting out, this is my first product, in my experience, they do not hold that against you. They will really, in many cases, go to the wall for you and do the best job they possibly can. They'll get you the best deal they possibly can because they want you to come back to them and buy additional products through them. So bear that in mind. So that was point number 2. And lastly, point number 3, pay-per-click. Amazon pay-per-click advertising. You've got to have a good grasp of how pay-per-click works. You've got to have a good idea of how Amazon pay-per-click in particular works. And you also need to know, it helps to know, the advantages of driving business to your Amazon product from off the Amazon platform. Whether you want to use Facebook or AdSense ads on Google or whatever other sources of traffic you have been successful in generating, you want to point as much traffic as you can into Amazon. Now, that may be a little advanced for some of the people just starting out, but the seed I want to plant here and the thing I want to get across is you do need to do advertising for a product. Absolutely positively. The easiest way to do that will be through Amazon pay-per-click. That will also be probably the most expensive way of doing it, at least initially. But you need to go into this endeavor understanding that you will need to do advertising. There are people that I have encountered throughout my entire professional life, whether it's in e-commerce or brick and mortar stores, that just have an absolute deep-seated aversion to spending money on any type of advertising or marketing. And those people have almost always come in contact with me because they're seeking out advice on how to revive or resuscitate a failing business. If you go into Amazon thinking that you're going to list products and find immediate traffic without pay-per-click, you're going to be one of those people contacting me as well. So understand, those are the 3 things that you need to really, if not master initially, at least have a good working knowledge of. That is shipping, how you want to use a freight consolidator probably to ship things over by the container load. That will require you to think ahead because containers the time varies, but you're looking at anywhere from probably 10 days to as much as maybe 3 or 4 weeks. During the initial days of the pandemic, it was taking over a month to get a container out of China to the U.S. Typically, it's roughly 2 weeks, give or take. But a freight consolidator can have your freight in a container with other people's freight. And to give you an example, where I said before that you were looking at $1,700 for 150 pounds of freight a year ago, air freight, for a 40-foot shipping container with 20 tons in it, you're looking at something along the lines of about $2,300. So for just a few $100s more, you're doing, what is that? I don't know, 200 times as much, or more than 200 times as much freight. So a freight consolidator can give you a portion of a 40-foot shipping container for maybe a couple of $100s. The only thing is you've got to wait 2 to 3 weeks to get your freight in. Plan ahead, anticipate that, but use that savings also, that the savings on freight versus what you would have paid going air freight. Use that to again up your minimum order quantity. Instead of doing 250 pieces, do 500, or instead of 500, do 1,000 or 1,500. You want to give your purchasing and your sourcing agent as much flexibility as you possibly can in terms of quantity. Generally speaking, the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. But there's sweet spots. There are places where you have to make a big jump to get an additional discount. But if you can get to those plateaus, those little stepping off points, and do so through a purchasing agent, and then ship it more economically, you're in a good place at that point. Okay, you're probably going to make money. You're going to be able to compete with the sellers that import on a larger scale and that have a longer history with that product. You have a much, much better chance of doing well. So that's about it. I wanted to give you those 3 things to think about. They're vitally important, and they're something that almost no course covers because they're not easy to explain. It's not something where you can say, oh, look at my phone, look at all this. No, you've actually got to know this. And there's no way around it. Okay, for the people that have courses out there that don't cover this, the reason they don't cover it is probably because they've never sold a product on Amazon. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's in all likelihood the reason they don't mention it. But if you are going to sell on Amazon, you have got to have a strong working knowledge, if not an actual level of knowledge that could be called expertise in those areas. So think about it. Ask questions down below. There's a lot here to unpack and unwind. I fully expect to see some questions. If you don't mind, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button below if you found this information useful, and I will see you in the next video.